Hello everyone, Bach Photography here, back with another video, so thank you for joining me once again. Today we're looking at a natural light portrait session I did with a 35mm and an 85mm lens. We're going to be looking at a behind the scenes of this photo shoot, how we took a few photos, we're going to look at a few photos and also do some editing at the end of this video. I'd like to apologize for my voice, I am quite sick at the moment, but let's not let that stop us. Let's have a look at this video and have a look at a breakdown of this photo shoot and a behind the scenes and how we took some photos here. So first of all, let's talk equipment. I used a Sony A7R2 with a 85mm f1.4 ART lens by Sigma and also a Sigma 35mm f1.4 ART lens. And the Sigma 35 is the lens I used for most of this photo shoot, but I did do a few 85mm photos as well. And for anyone who's interested, I used a Canon 5D Mark IV to record all of the footage in this video. And I'm going to leave a link to all of the equipment I used in the description of this video, along with a link to the raw files as well from this photo shoot, so that you can edit some of these photos if you'd like to, or edit along with me at the end of this video. So let's talk lighting. For this particular photo shoot, we used natural light only, so no light modifiers, no flashes, no constant lights, nothing like that. The only thing we had was the sun and the sunlight it provided, which actually turned out really nicely for this photo shoot. We used the sun in the background and used a backlight, and we did that because it provides a nice soft light in the foreground, and when you're shooting at low apertures you get beautiful bokeh in the background and also a nice hair light on your subject as well. You can see on this photo here the hair light in the background is really illuminating the fringes of her hair and making the blonde parts of her hair stand out more than the rest of the parts of her hair, so it gives it more of a textured look. And also we have that really nice blurry bokeh in the background and those nice light blobs of light that are coming through the leaves in the background. Because we were shooting about 2 hours before sunset, the sun was still kind of high in the sky, so we positioned our model here so that the sun was shooting through the trees and we got a more diffused light. So a bit of a tip for you is that if you're shooting where the sun is a little bit higher than you'd like it to be, you can always use something like a tree or a building or anything else really to obscure the light and make the area that you're in a little bit more diffuse and softer light for in your photo. So now here are a few of the photos that we took at this location and a few of my favorite ones from this spot. So let me know in the comments which one you think is the best out of those four. I think my favorite one out of those four is either the first one or the second one. So now let's have a look at the second location, which was just around the corner from where we were shooting. We found these vines on a fence just around the corner from the place that we were shooting just before, and we thought they'd be really cool because having a really dark, deep green would complement the golden light that we're having at the golden hour just before the sun goes down. And also because Mona here had really nice gold hair, that also complemented with the green as well, so it looked really, really good. I also really like shooting next to fences when you're shooting down the line of the fence because you can get a really out of focus background and really large blurry bobs of bokeh. And you can see down here that we have a lot of space in the distance, so we're going to get a super blurry out of focus shot in the background, and then the foreground is going to be a nice sharp contrast between the background. You can see in this video clip just how blurry the background gets even at a 35mm lens when the background is really, really far away in the distance. So a great tip if you're looking to add some background separation between your subject and the background is make sure that the background is really, really far away. You're going to get a lot more separation if the background is super far away and there's a big distance between the objects in the background and your foreground. So now let's have a look at a couple of the photos from this part of the photo shoot. So I've been thinking of setting up a Twitch stream for editing my photos on live stream. So if any of you are interested in me doing that, let me know in the comments and I'll set that up so that we can edit together and chat together over on Twitch. And if you got this far into the video and you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and hit the like as well. It really helps me make this into a full-time job so I can make as much content for you guys as possible. So thank you very much for subscribing, I really appreciate that. So this is the photo we're going to be looking at in more detail in this video, and I chose this photo because I liked how it was framed. I really liked how the sun is really poking out in the corner and providing a really bright hair light onto Mona here. we have some really nice colors. We have really strong greens, and then we also have the really strong yellows from the lighting as well. I think the posing is quite good, and you can get quite a nice connection to the photo from the eye contact that Mona is giving us as well. So let me know what you think of this photo. This is the one that we're going to be looking at in detail. For this photo, we shot at f1.4, and that is the lowest aperture of the lens that I was using, and I really wanted to blur out the background and get as nice as much beautiful blurry blobs of light as I could in the background, and as much background separation as well that I could. I also used the lowest aperture possible because I wanted to make the fence blur out as well in the background, and that's another reason we shot here, is because we had this nice leading line into the background from the fence. So shooting at f1.4 is really good for making nice blurry backgrounds, but also because we were completely in shade, we needed to use a bright aperture to get as much light as we could into my camera so that we could get a nice exposure and keep the ISO of our camera nice and low. And the ISO of the camera for this photo was 100, which is the base level ISO for the camera, and that is going to provide the cleanest signal to my sensor when I take a photo, so that we have the most dynamic range to play with when we're editing and the least amount of noise in the shadows as well. I shot at 1/200th of a second because it was quite dark here in the shadows, so I needed to shoot quite slow, but I wanted to shoot at least at 1/160th of a second or faster so that I didn't get any motion blur in the photo. So that is why we used these camera settings for this photo. If you have any questions about these settings, let me know in the comments and I'll be glad to answer them. So before we go into Photoshop and start editing this photo, let's actually have a look at a second photo shoot / location that we had planned on this day, but we only had about 5 minutes to do any shooting and basically no time for any setup or anything like that. So I pretty much am omitting most of it from this video, but I thought you might be interested in seeing just a little bit of that as well. So here is the location for that shoot, and here are a couple of the photos we took here really quickly. We were really pushed for time, so it's not really worth making an entire video out of, but I thought you might be interested in just seeing how a really quick 5-minute photo shoot kind of unraveled in this area. Okay, here we are in Photoshop, and let's have a look at this photo, editing from start to finish. So the first thing I'd like to do is just add a little bit of clarity to the entire image. Not too much so I start seeing any kind of weird highlights, but just a little bit of clarity, so maybe about this much. And then I'm also going to change the color balance of the entire image to be a little bit more warm as well. So the skin tones, they look much nicer with a little bit more of a warm color. So the next thing I'll do is just add a little bit more shadow to the entire image, maybe boost up the contrast, just a little bit like that as well. And that's everything for those big sliders. I'm going to add a lot more yellow in as well, because I really think that the yellow looks awesome in this photo. And I'm also going to add a whole bunch more green as well. Cool, so now let's go to the brush slider, the brush tool I should say, just up here. And we're just going to attack the skin here. So drop the clarity, drop the blacks, drop the exposure. And the exposure and blacks are really just dropped so I can see exactly where I'm clicking. And I'm just going to highlight all the areas that I'd like to smooth. And I really like this tool. Some people don't like to do it this way because it is quite a rough tool, and you can make much more precise adjustments with dodging and burning or doing frequency separation or something like that. But if you're wanting to quickly smooth the skin, this is a really quick way of just getting rid of any imperfections in a rough way. So make sure you don't go over any of the lines that you'd like to keep sharp. This is only for smoothing. So we want to make sure that we don't touch the eyebrows. We want to make sure that we don't touch the eyes, the nostrils, and things like that, the lips as well, and the chin and jawline. But anywhere that we'd like to make a little bit more smooth, we can just go over it. And over here I don't think it matters that much because we're already quite blurry. And then I like to do the arms as well. They're not really as important as the face. They also don't demand as much attention as the face when you're looking at a photo, but I like to do them as well, just for good measure. And this one's really blurry over here, so it's not going to make that much difference actually with this tool, but we'll do it anyway. So now that we've done that, we'll remove the blacks and the exposure changes and just drop the clarity until we can still see some detail in there, so that's too far, but then we get rid of any of those obvious imperfections as well. So if you drop it and it starts looking a little bit grey, you can just add a little bit of exposure back in as well, and that makes a big difference. Okay, so I think that's about right. So that's just a quick smoothing tool that you can use on your photos. I'm just going to reset the brush tool here, and then I'm going to paint some color and also clarity into the eyes. I'm going to go quite far with it this time. I'm going to go quite crazy with the eyes. So maybe that's a little bit too crazy. Yeah, I think that's about right. And then I'm just going to reset the brush tool here. You can see they look quite crazy at the moment, but we're going to make all the other features also stand out, and it will look better when I do that. So I'm just going to add color into the eyes as well. I'm going to go a bit crazy with it. Maybe add a little bit of color with the color slider as well, just to make them really pop from the image. So now you can see they really stand out in the photo, and it's the first thing you look at. But now that we've done that, we should change some of the other parts of the face as well, just to kind of balance the whole face out. So let's just reset some of these here, and then I'm just going to make the eyebrows look a little bit darker as well. And also these jewels here, I might just give them a couple of hits too here. Okay, that's looking really good. Very nice. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use that clarity slider again and the shadows and highlights, and just brush some more texture into the hair, make it stand out a little bit more. All of these things I'm doing right now are really rough, and if you had an hour or a couple of hours to make a photo look amazing, this probably wouldn't be the way you do it. But if you want to make a photo look decent in about 10 minutes, this is the way I like to do it. So there you go. That's everything we're going to do in Camera Raw, I think. Let me just have a quick look around. Yep, I think that's good. So now let's jump into native Photoshop. So that tool we just used, Camera Raw, that only comes up if you're shooting in RAW and editing a RAW file. So if that doesn't come up for you when you're editing something, you can actually go to Filter and then Camera Raw filter here, and it will bring up the photo in that tool I was just using. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to use the patch tool. And if you can't see the patch tool, you might just have to hold the left click button and choose it from here. You might see one of these tools. But now we're just going to remove a few blemishes from the skin. Because we're shooting at f1.4, there's not that much work to do here, just a couple of little touches here and there. And you can go as crazy with this as you like. If you want to make the skin look absolutely perfect, that's up to you. I like to just do kind of a rough smoothing because I like the skin to have a little bit of texture still. Not too much, but just a little bit, so it doesn't look too perfect, as if it might not be natural. Just making things look a little bit better than they might be, I think, is better. And also, it's very easy when you're doing these sorts of things to go too far and make things look a little bit unnatural. So just leaving a little bit of texture in there makes it more believable as well, and it makes the photo, I think, look a little bit better. So what I'm actually doing here is just circling a thing that I don't like in the photo, and then dragging the texture over somewhere else where there's a piece of smooth skin, letting go, and the texture gets removed. The colors still stay the same, but the texture changes. So this is a really great tool so that you're not making the colors look crazy, you're just getting rid of any imperfections in the texture. So now that we've done that, I'm just going to show you another trick you can do. You can just circle a bit of skin that looks a little bit rugged, and then you can go to the filter blur and then choose the Gaussian blur, and you then change the pixel to about 1, and then you're just adding a little bit of blur to that area and making any imperfections look a little bit less noticeable. So you can go around and do that as well. I'm just going to do that a little bit around here too, where you can see a little bit of texture. And I think that's it for that, the skin stuff. So now let's go to the filter and liquify tool. I'm just going to make the hair look a little bit more full. This is something I always do with portraits, particularly with people that have long hair, because I think that if you just make the hair look a little bit bigger, a little bit fuller, it always makes a huge difference to the portraits, makes them look like they have amazing hair. You don't have to go crazy with this, just adding little bits and bobs here there. It does make a massive difference to the final image. I'm just going to move that arm up a little bit here as well. And all these changes are really subtle. You don't want to make changes that are too large. So here is a before and an after, and you can see that really makes a massive difference, even with a small bit of changing. Okay, so there's only going to be one final thing now that I do to this photo. I'm just going to make a selection of Mona here. And it's just a rough selection, it doesn't have to be perfect, because what we're doing here is going select inverse. So now I have a selection of everything that isn't her. I'm going to go filter, blur, Gaussian blur again, and just add a couple of pixels here and there to make her stand out even more from the photo. So I'm making sure that she isn't actually getting blurred, just her surroundings, and I'm moving the selection around every time I do it so that there's no hard line where the blur starts and ends. So that just adds a little bit more separation between her and the foreground and background as well. So that is everything for this photo. I really hope that you like it, and please let me know if you do. Leave a like and also comment, tell me what you think of this photo. If you'd like to edit this yourself, feel free. The raws are going to be in the description, and also I'd love to see your final edit of this on Instagram. Make sure to hit me up with a DM, show me your final edits. I really do enjoy seeing all of your photos that you edit of mine. So thank you very much for that. That's everything for this one, so I will see you in the next one.